Yeah. Good evening, all of you. So today, in the last lecture, we were discussing about relative motion. We did one or two problems based on relative motion. Today, we will take few more problems based on relative motion, and then after that, we will start Newton's laws of motion. Okay. So there's one question, first of all, based on projectile motion. I want to see whether you all remember the concepts of 2D motion well or not. So the question is, a golfer standing on level ground hits a ball with a velocity of 52 meter per second. A golfer standing on level ground hits a ball with a velocity of 52 meter per second. Let's say this velocity is given as 52 meter per second. Okay. And it goes like this. At an angle theta with the horizontal, this angle is given as theta. And the value of tan theta in this problem is given as 5 by 12. Tan theta is given as 5 by 12. A golfer standing on level ground hits a ball with a velocity of 52 meter per second, making an angle theta with the horizontal. Tan theta is given as 5 by 12. Then find out time for which the ball is at least 15 meter above the ground. Find out time for which the ball is at least 15 meter above the ground. You can see the diagram. This one is given as 15 meter. This one is also given as 15 meter. These dotted lines, vertical dotted lines. So question is, a golfer standing on level ground hits a ball with a velocity of 52 meter per second, making an angle theta with horizontal, and the value of tan theta is 5 by 12. What we have to find out? Find out time for which the ball is at least 15 meter above the ground level. Or you can say, if I name this point as A and this point as B, so basically they are asking you to find out time taken by the ball in moving from A to B. Basically, for this path, you have to find out time. And the value of G, you can take 10. Acceleration due to gravity in downward direction is 10 meter per second square. So how will you do it? First, you need to split velocity into components. Wait. So tan theta is given. Tan theta is given. You can find out sine theta and cos theta. How will you find out sine theta? You can draw the triangle. Why do you need sine theta cos theta? To split the components of velocity. If this is theta, tan theta is given as 5 by 12. So this one is 5, height is 5, base is 12. So this would be how much? This would be 13. So what would be sine theta? Sine theta is equal to height upon hypotenuse, 5 by 13. And what is cos theta? Cos theta is equal to base 12 upon 13. So you got sine theta cos theta. This horizontal component would be 52 cos theta, and the vertical component would be 52 sine theta. You can put the values of cos theta and sine theta. 52 multiplied by cos theta is 12 by 13. So this would be 48 meter per second. And sine theta is given as how much? It is 5 by 13. Okay, so this would be 1420 meter per second. So the horizontal component comes out to be 48 meter per second, and vertical component is 20 meter per second. And they wanted to find out time taken by the particle or by the ball from A to B. Can you see a mini projectile from A to B? If I assume AB as another horizontal level, then from A to B, you can see there is one more projectile. And how to find out time of flight of a projectile? Time of flight for a particular projectile is nothing but 2 times Vy. Vy is what? I told you earlier, it is the vertical component of velocity. 2 times vertical initial component from point of projection upon g, acceleration due to gravity. So your job is to find out vertical component of velocity at point A. And you know vertical component of velocity at initial point O. And let's say this is the highest point. This point is C. Okay. So at point O, you know the velocity, vertical velocity. At point A, you have to find out vertical velocity Vy. And I can see the vertical displacement between O and A. Wait. Let me do something for the sound effect. It's okay now. Okay, how to find out time taken by the particle from A to B? Simply 2 times vertical velocity at point A upon g. Now, between points O and A, I know initial velocity at point O, initial vertical at O. I have to find out vertical velocity at point A. So simply I can use, and I know the vertical displacement between them and the acceleration due to gravity. Simply you can apply V square minus U square is equal to 2AS. So what is V? V is the velocity at point A, which we have to find out. So this one is what? Vy. This one is Vy square minus use the initial velocity, vertical velocity at point O. I am applying this equation in vertical direction. So at point O, initial vertical velocity is 20 meter per second. This one. So 20 square is equal to 2 times acceleration is how much? It is 10, and that would be with negative sign because it is in downward direction, multiplied by displacement. What is the vertical displacement between O and A? It is 15, given it is as 15. So Vy square minus 400 is equal to minus 300. Okay, so Vy square is equal to simply 400 minus 300, that is equal to 100. So Vy comes out to be simply 10 meter per second. We got vertical component of velocity at point A, and now you can easily find out. Time taken by the particle from A to B. How? using this formula. So time of flight, because from A to B, you can see it is a mini projectile, because A and B, they both are at same horizontal level. Okay. So time of flight would be 2 times vertical velocity comes out to 10 upon acceleration due to gravity is also 10. So time of flight is equal to 2 seconds. Or you can say time taken from A to B. Okay. I believe everything is visible and the voice is audible perfectly. There is no, if you cannot, then please check your internet. Okay, there are many methods to solve this problem. I told you in kinematics, you can use multiple methods. So this one is the shortest, which I feel. So I applied this one. Or else what you can do, you can find out time from O to A, and then you can find out time from O to C by finding out maximum height, and then take a difference of those two times, you will get time from A to C, and then just double that value, you will get time from A to B. Okay, so there are multiple methods to solve this problem. I have used this one by applying v square minus u square is equal to 2as between points O and A. We want to find out vertical velocity at point A. Why I took minus 10? Why? Because acceleration due to is in downward direction. It's a very simple thing. Like any physical quantity which is in upward direction, we take it as positive, and all the physical quantities which are in downward direction, we take it as negative. These are the sign conventions which we have to follow. Okay. So next question. Next question. Final answer is 2 seconds. Time taken by the particle from A to B is 2 seconds. Or you can say ball would be at a height of 15 meter for 2 seconds. Okay. So next question. Based on projectile motion. Some of you are saying it's proper. You can see whatever is written on the paper. Some of you are not able to see the thing. What is it? I can see it properly. I have another device. I can see that clearly. Wait. Okay. So next question. Next question. This question is also based on projectile. A bomber flying upwards at an angle 53 degree with vertical. A bomber flying upwards at an angle 53 degree with vertical releases a bomb at 800-meter altitude. A bomber flying upwards at an angle 53 degree with vertical releases a bomb at 800-meter altitude. 800, let's say this one is the ground. If this is ground, okay, so bomber is flying. This one is the bomber. It's flying at an altitude of 800 meter, making an angle 53 degree with vertical. Okay, and it releases a bomb at 800 altitude. When it is at a height of 800 meter from ground, this bomber releases a bomb. The bomb strikes the ground after 20 seconds. Bomb bomb strikes bomb strikes the ground after 20 seconds of its release. Bomb strikes the ground after 20 seconds of its release. Find out first part. Find out first part. Velocity of bomber at the time of release. Velocity of bomber at the time of release. First part. Second part. Maximum height. Maximum height attained by maximum height attained by bomb. Second part. Third part. Horizontal distance covered by the bomb before it strikes the ground. Basically range. They are asking you horizontal distance covered by bomb before it strikes ground. And the last part is velocity of the bomb when it strikes the ground. Last part is velocity of bomb when it strikes ground. Okay, so the question is, a bomber is flying by making an angle of 53 degree with vertical. It releases a bomb, and at that time the height of the bomb from ground is 800 meter. Okay, so only two information. And the bomb strikes the ground. The bomb strikes the ground after 20 seconds of its release. So we have got three data: that bomber is making an angle of 53 degree with vertical. Second one is at the time of releasing the bomb, it is at height 800 meter from the ground. And the third part is this bomb takes 20 seconds to reach ground. Okay, once it is released. We have to find out these four parts. First one is velocity of bomber at the time of release. Second part is maximum height attained by the bomb. Third part is horizontal distance covered by the bomb before it strikes ground. And the last part is velocity of bomb when it strikes ground. Last part is velocity of bomb when it strikes ground. We have already done these kind of problems. So here you need to first check at when the bomber is releasing the bomb, what would be the velocity of the bomb during that time. So no velocity data is given. No velocity data is given. So you can assume that at the speed of bomber is v. Let's say the speed of bomber is v, and it releases a bomb. So many times I have given you this example, that while we are traveling in a train and you want to jump off the train, then we would at the time of jumping off, we would have the same velocity as that of the train. While jumping off the train. Similarly, for this bomber, we have assumed that initially the speed of this bomber is v. So when this bomb was released, this bomb will also have the same velocity in the same direction. This will have the same velocity v. So what would be the motion? What would be the motion of this bomb? It would be projectile motion. First, it will go up till the time its vertical velocity becomes zero, and then again it will start coming down. So it will follow parabolic path. It will follow parabolic path like this. It will follow parabolic path. Okay, so it's clear that we assume that the speed of bomber is v. So the speed of bomb will also be v, and the bomb will perform this kind of parabolic path. So what would be the horizontal and vertical component? If angle made by vertical is 53°, then definitely angle made by horizontal would be 37°. So what would be the horizontal component of velocity? It would be v cos 37. And what would be the vertical velocity of bomb at the time of release? It would be v sine 37°. V cos 37°, v sine 37°. Okay. One data is given. If I assume this initial point as A, highest point as B, and this point on the ground where it strikes is C. So time taken by the particle from A to C by following the path ABC is given as how much? It is given as 20 seconds. So basically 20 seconds is the time of flight of this projectile. And this projectile, for this projectile, the initial and vertical points, they are not at the same horizontal level. So I told you one thing, whenever you're solving questions based on two dimension, always solve vertical and horizontal parts separately. That's it. That's all you have to do. Okay, so I know vertical velocity at point A. I know vertical displacement. I know vertical displacement between points A and C. And I know time taken by the particle from A to C. So I can clearly see that we can use between points A and C in vertical direction. We can use this equation. S is equal to ut plus half at square between points A and C, between initial and final points. So what is the displacement, vertical displacement between points A and C? It is 800, and that too with negative sign. Why? Because with respect to initial point, we are going down. So this S would be minus 800 is equal to, now this U would be initial vertical velocity at point A, which is V sine 37. And what is the value of sine 37? Sine 37 is simply 3 by 5. So this would be 3V by 5. So this U would be with a positive sign because it is in upward direction, 3V by 5. And what is the time? Time is given as 20. Time is already known to us. Time is given as 20 from A to C. Okay, now next, A would be taken as negative because it is in downward direction. And the value is given as 10 meter per second square. So this would be minus half multiplied by A is given as minus 10 multiplied by T square. T square is what? 20 square, because time is 20. Now solve this equation and get the value of V. You will get answer for the first part, velocity of bomber at the time of release. So minus 800 is equal to, this is 1, this one is 4. So 12V minus 5 multiplied by 400. So 12V is equal to 2000 minus 800, that is equal to 1200. 12V is equal to 1200. This implies V is equal to how much? 100 meter per second. Answer for the first part would be 100 meter per second. Velocity of bomber at the time of release would be 100 meter per second. There is nothing new in this question. A bomber is flying. We just released one bomb. So that bomb will also have the same velocity as that of the bomber at the time of releasing the bomb. And what would be the path followed by this bomb? It would be projectile motion. Initially it will go up, and then it starts coming down and hits ground after some time. So the total time of travel for this bomb is given as 20 seconds. And in the last lecture, I had already told you how to find out values of sine 37, cos 37, sine 53, cos 53. I had drawn one triangle and asked you all to remember that triangle. Okay, and then we applied this S is equal to ut plus half at square between points A and C in vertical direction, because I can clearly see vertical displacement between these 2 points, which is given as 800 meter with a negative sign. We have to, whenever you are using these three equations of motion, please take care of sign convention. We are taking upward direction as positive and downward as negative. Okay. So minus 800 is equal to what is the initial velocity at point A? It is V sine 37, which is 3V by 5 multiplied by time, which is 20. Acceleration would be minus 10, half into minus 10 multiplied by 20 square. Solve this equation, you will get V is equal to 100 meter per second. So velocity of bomber is 100 meter per second. Now second part, very easy. Now all the parts you can do. First part is 100 meter per second. Now second part is, this one was the first part. Second part, maximum height run by the bomb. So already this bomb is at a height of 800 meter from ground. You just find out this one, vertical displacement between points A and B. So this one, let's say this one is a small h. Okay, so you have to find out this small h and just add this small h in 800, you will get the final answer. This small h also you can find out, because the final vertical velocity at point B would be 0. So simply you can use between points A and B. I'm not using any formula, and I asked you all not to remember any formula. Always solve. Remember the process. So between points A and B, you can apply V square minus U square is equal to 2AS again between points A and B. So what is the final vertical velocity? It is 0. What is the initial vertical velocity at point A? It is 3V by 5. And now we know the value of V. So 3V by 5. What is V? V is 100. Square of this is equal to 2 times acceleration is minus 10, and this S would be small h. So 1 and this one is 2 0. So 60 minus 3600 is equal to minus 20 multiplied by h. So this h comes out to be how much? 180 meter. This small h comes out to be 180 meter. So what would be h max? H max would be equal to simply 180 plus 800. That is equal to how much? 980 meter from ground. This would be the maximum height attained by the particle. 980 meter. Okay. We are taking the value of acceleration due to gravity 10. If you take 9.8, then you will see certain slight change in answers, but that's okay. You must know the concept. So the answer for the second part is 980 meter maximum height from the ground. Now third part is horizontal distance. Third part is horizontal distance travel. Simply they are asking you range. They are asking you this range. And what was this horizontal component? It was V, which is 100 multiplied by cos 37. How much is cos 37? It is 4 by 5. So 100 multiplied by 4 by 5, it would be 80 meter per second. 80 meter per second would be the horizontal component. You already know the time, 20. So this horizontal range is nothing but, it is simply distance is equal to speed multiplied by time. So speed is given as 80 and time is given as how much? 20 seconds. So that would be 1600 meter. This would be the answer for third part. This would be the answer for third part. Horizontal distance covered by the bomb before it strikes ground, 1600 meter. Clear? And the last part is velocity of bomb when it strikes ground. We have already done these kind of subparts in many questions. So velocity of the bomb when it strikes the ground, this horizontal will always remain same. In projectile motion, horizontal component always remains same. So this horizontal would be 80 meter per second. This would remain same. We just have to find out this vertical. Let's say this one is Vy. Just have to find Vy and then take resultant of Vy and 80 meter per second. How to find out Vy? Between A and C, simply use V is equal to U plus 80. Between, so here we can see V is equal to u plus at between A and C in vertical direction. So this v, vertical velocity at C, we have to find out. So let's say this one is vy, and vertical velocity at point A is how much? It is 3v by 5. So that is equal to 3 by 5 multiplied by 100. This one is given as 60 meter per second. So this u would be plus 60 meter per second, a would be minus 10, and time is given as how much? Time is 20. So basically minus 140 meter per second, minus 140 meter per second would be the vertical component of this bomb at point C when it is about to hit the ground. When it is about to hit the ground. Velocity, so this Vy comes out to be 140 meter per second. And now you can take resultant of 80 and 140. Simply 80 square plus 140 square whole root will give you the answer for fourth part. Okay. This V sine 37 in the first part, okay. So in this first part, we already got the value of V, which was the speed of bomber. That is 100. So this 100 multiplied by 3 by 5 will give you 60 vertical component, and 100 multiplied by 4 by 5 will give you 80. This one is the horizontal component of velocity. So in the last part, what we have to do, we have to find out velocity of the bomb when it strikes the ground. In projectile motion, horizontal component always remains same. So this would remain 80 meter per second. Okay. And this vertical component, we have to find out, which you can find out by applying V is equal to U plus 80. V equal to U plus 80. U is 60 minus acceleration is 10 multiplied by time is 20. It comes out to minus 140 meter per second. This minus sign indicates that particle is moving in downward direction. And now you can find out resultant of these two, 80 and 140. Okay. So next question based on relative motion. Okay. Okay. Next one, based on relative motion. Next question is, an elevator in which a man is standing, an elevator in which a man is standing is moving upward with a constant acceleration of 1 meter per second square. 1 meter per second square. An elevator in which a man is standing is moving upward with a constant acceleration of 1 meter per second square. This one is the elevator. This elevator is moving with acceleration, constant acceleration, 1 meter per second square, and this man is standing inside the elevator. At some instant when speed of elevator is 10 meter per second, at some instant when speed of elevator is 10 meter per second, man drops a coin. Man drops a coin from a height of 2 meter. From a height of 2 meter. Okay. Man drops at some instant when speed of elevator is 10 meter per second. Man drops a coin from a height of 2 meter. Find out time taken by the coin to reach the floor. Find out time taken by the coin to reach the floor. To reach the floor of elevator. This you have to find out. So the question is, there is an elevator, man is standing inside the elevator. Elevator is moving up, going in upward direction with constant acceleration 1 meter per second square. At some instant, the speed of the velocity of elevator is 10 meter per second. And at this instant, this man drops a coin from a height of 2 meter. Find out time taken by the coin to reach the floor. Find out time taken by the coin to reach the floor. This question you can solve using relative motion concept. What was relative motion concept? If there are two particles and both are in motion, so here the particles are, one is elevator, another one is man. There are two particles, one is elevator, another one is man. So you keep one of those at rest and solve the motion of other one with respect to previous one. And how to do it? There is a 3-step process. First one is first of all, decide an observer, keep that observer at rest, reverse that observer's velocity and give it to another particle. And the third step is find out the resultant velocity of that particle whose motion we are observing. That's it. So with respect to ground, let's say if there is another man, if there is another man standing on ground, okay, and this man is at rest. This one is man A, and the man inside the elevator is B. So if I go to this man A and ask what exactly is going on, this man A will reply that elevator is moving up with constant acceleration 1 meter per second square, and so is the man B moving up with the same acceleration, because they both would be a single particle for this man A standing on ground. Okay, but when you go to man B, and ask what exactly is going on, so this B will say that with respect to the elevator, this man B would be at rest. Why? Because they both are moving up with the same acceleration and same velocity. So man B will say, I'm not doing anything, I'm at rest. And when you go to man A and ask what exactly is the motion of B, man A will say that man B and elevator, they both are going up with 1 meter per second square. So when this man B drops a coin from a height of 2 meter from the floor, lift is already going up, coin would come down. Why? Because of the free fall. Acceleration due to gravity is still acting, and the value is given as 10 meter per second square. This one is elevator, this one is man B. So let's keep one of them at rest. Let's keep elevator at rest and study the motion of coin. Let's keep elevator at rest. So keep elevator at rest. Step 1. Keep elevator at rest. Now what is the velocity of man B? What velocity of man B with respect to elevator E? What is this VBE? This is the velocity of man B with respect to elevator. That would be velocity of man B with respect to ground using the formula which I told you in the last lecture, minus velocity of elevator with respect to ground. Velocity of man B with respect to ground minus velocity of elevator with respect to ground. Okay, now I will go to this man A and ask, what is the velocity of B with respect to ground when the coin was released? He will say they both are having, both man B and elevator with respect to ground, they both are having the velocity 10 meter per second in upward direction. So this would be 10 j cap minus 10 j cap. This comes out to be 0. So there is no relative velocity. There is no relative velocity. Correct. Now let's talk about acceleration. The same thing we can apply for acceleration. The same thing we can apply for displacement. We can find out relative displacement as well as relative acceleration using the same formula. So acceleration of, you can say, coin with respect to, or here also you can say it is acceleration of ball or coin, acceleration of coin with respect to elevator. Okay, or you can say acceleration of this B, man B with respect to elevator would be equal to what? Acceleration of man B with respect to ground minus acceleration of elevator with respect to ground. Okay, so when the coin is released, this is same as we are talking about coin. When the coin is released, it will do free fall. So the ground particle observer who is standing on ground, he will say that coin is having 10 meter per second square, basically only the acceleration due to gravity in downward direction. With respect to ground, acceleration of the coin released by the man B would be minus 10 j cap minus, now what is the acceleration of elevator with respect to ground? It is clearly given as 1 meter per second square in upward direction, so that would be 1 j cap. So this minus 10 j cap minus 1 j cap would be minus 11 j cap. Acceleration of coin, or you can say man, with respect to elevator would be minus 11 j cap. Why we are doing it? Because with respect to elevator, this coin has to travel 2 meter, but with respect to ground, this distance would be less before it hits the floor. Why? Because lift is also moving up. I am inside the lift, I have released some coin and lift is moving up. So that distance traveled would not be 2 meter, it would be less than 2 meter with respect to an observer standing on the ground. But if I am inside the lift and if I ask lift, then lift will tell me that coin has traveled 2 meter with respect to lift. So can I say one thing, that displacement of coin with respect to elevator, displacement of coin with respect to elevator would be 2 meter, because it is known to me, because it was known to me, this displacement was known to me. That is the reason I'm finding out this acceleration and velocity both of coin with respect to elevator. Velocity comes out to be 0 and acceleration of coin with respect to elevator comes out to be minus 11 meter per second square, and the displacement of coin with respect to elevator is 2 meter. And now simply you can use the formula F is equal to ut plus half a t square, and all the terms would be with respect to elevator. Ce and acceleration would also be Ce. So what was the initial velocity of coin with respect to elevator? It was 0. So this term would be 0. Now displacement is how much? It is 2 meter. Okay, minus 2 because it is in downward direction from initial point. Minus 2 is equal to 0. Acceleration is how much? Acceleration is minus 11. So minus half multiplied by 11 multiplied by t square. From here you can find out t would be 4 upon 11 square root. Square root of 4 upon 11 would be the answer. And when you solve, this comes out to be 0.61, approximately 0.61 seconds. So this is how we take help of relative motion for solving these kind of problems. Whenever there are two objects and they both are in motion, I will explain it again, wait. Whenever there are two objects and they both are in motion, then we have to keep one of them at rest and solve the another one, motion of another one with respect to the observer. Things will become easy, otherwise you won't be able to solve. So here, left elevator is there, man is there, elevator is moving up with constant acceleration 1 meter per second square given in the problem. At some instant, the velocity of elevator is 10 meter per second, and the man B would also have the same velocity because he is standing inside the elevator. And at that time, man B is moving up with velocity 10 meter per second, and this man B releases a coin. The same thing, the same example I will give you. When I'm in a running train and I want to jump off the train, correct, I will have the same velocity as that of the train. So when the coin was released, by man B, at that time man B was having velocity 10 meter per second in upward direction. So this coin will also have the same velocity 10 meter per second in upward direction. I have taken here, correct. So they both are having same elevator as well as coin. They both are having the same velocity 10 meter per second. That is why velocity of coin with respect to elevator is 10 minus 10 0. Now we have to find out acceleration. As the coin is released, so the acceleration will not be 1 meter per second square as that of the elevator. Acceleration basically it will do free fall with respect to an observer standing on the ground. This coin will have g in downward direction. So acceleration of coin with respect to E would be equal to acceleration of coin with respect to ground minus acceleration of elevator with respect to ground. Acceleration of coin is minus 10 in downward direction, minus acceleration of elevator is plus 1 in upward direction. So this acceleration of coin with respect to elevator comes out to be minus 11. Okay. Yes, we have taken plus 10, initial velocity plus 10 for both elevator as well as coin. So plus 10 minus plus 10 would be 0. Acceleration is minus 11, and displacement of coin with respect to elevator is 2 meter. That would be negative. Why? Because it is in downward direction. And then you can use this formula as is equal to ut plus half at square to get time. Clear? Acceleration is minus 10 because acceleration due to gravity is acting in downward direction. Okay. Next question. So one last question based on relative motion, then we will start Newton's laws of motion. One last question based on relative motion. Question is, so basically it's a Rain Man problem. Rain Man problems. Rain Man problems. Question is, in the absence of wind, rain is falling vertically with a speed of 4 meter per second. In the absence of wind, rain is falling vertically with a speed of 4 meter per second. No wind is there. No wind is there. So those of you who desperately want to start new topic, I would suggest them that please solve as many numericals as you can, because by just learning the concept, you won't be able to solve question. Solve numericals. These numericals only will help you to score more in NSCGS exam. There won't be any subjective paper. They will ask you numericals and you have to answer them. There would be 4 options available and you have to choose the right one. Increase your speed, increase your pace, and that is only possible when you solve as many questions as you can. So these problems are important. These concepts are important. Please learn them. Don't be in hurry. We will complete the syllabus. That's our responsibility. You don't be worried about it. Okay. So no wind is there. When there is no wind, rain is falling vertically down with speed 4 meter per second. Now after some time, wind starts blowing with 3 meter per second speed in north to south direction. In north, so this one is vertically down. So north to south, let's say this one is north, this one is south. So east would be coming out of the plane of this paper, and west would be into the plane of this paper. So this one is north, this one is south. So wind is blowing from north to south. After some time, wind starts blowing. Wind blows 3 meter per second from north to south. Okay. Now find the angle with the vertical. The question is, find out the angle with the vertical that a man standing on horizontal ground must hold his umbrella to keep himself dry. There is one man standing on ground with some umbrella. Okay, so initially when there is no wind, the man will hold the umbrella in this position, making a 0 degree angle with vertical, basically in the direction of vertical. But when wind starts blowing from north to south with speed 3 meter per second, this man will have to change the location or of the umbrella to keep himself dry. So you have to find out, tell me that angle this umbrella should make with vertical to keep this man dry from rain. When this wind starts blowing, there is no wind and the rain is falling vertically down 4 meter per second. After some time, wind starts blowing from north to south. So already there is rain in this direction with 4 meter per second. Now, can I say this? The impact of wind will also get added to rain. So now there is a wind in this direction, 3 meter per second. 4 meter per second is downward direction, then 3 meter per second towards left. Okay, and man is standing here with umbrella. So what should be the angle? What should be the angle made by umbrella with vertical to keep himself dry? So what would be the resultant velocity vector of rain? It would be somewhere here. This would be the resultant. This would be the resultant vector of the rain. Correct. So umbrella should be like this. Basically, we have to find out this angle with vertical theta. And if this one is theta, then this one would also be theta. So we are interested in finding out this theta. Okay. Find the angle with the vertical that a man standing on horizontal ground must hold his umbrella to keep himself dry. So this angle they're asking you with vertical. In this angle is theta, and this would also be theta. So here you can clearly see tan theta is equal to what? 3 by 4. And tan theta is 3 by 4 when theta is equal to 37 degree. It's a very basic question. Okay, just to learn the concept. Okay. Now next one is second part of this question. First part is this. Now second part. some new question. In second part, a man standing on a horizontal road has to hold his umbrella at 30 degree. Listen the question carefully. A man is standing on a horizontal road has to hold his umbrella at 30 degree to the vertical to keep rain away. A man standing on a horizontal, so there is one man is holding the umbrella like this, has to hold his umbrella at 30 degree to vertical. This angle is given at 30 degree to the vertical to keep rain away. Okay, it means the net velocity of rain is in this direction, and that is making 30 degree with vertical. This one is rain initially. Okay, next part is when he walks on the road. So this is situation one. Situation one, when this man is at rest, this man is not moving. Situation one, he has to hold the umbrella by making an angle 30 degree with vertical. So rain is taking place in this direction. When he walks on the road at 10 kilometer per hour, he has to hold the umbrella vertically to keep himself dry. He has to hold the umbrella vertically to keep himself dry. So when this man starts walking on the road at 10 kilometer, question is, when he starts walking on the road at 10 kilometer per hour, he has to hold the umbrella vertically to keep himself dry. Then find out the speed of raindrops with respect to ground. Find out speed of the raindrops. Situation one, and now second one is situation two. Situation two is when he starts running with 10 kilometer per hour. Okay, this one is rain. Rain will have the same thing. It would be in this direction at 30 degree. When this man starts moving with 10 kilometer per hour, as shown in the figure, he has to hold the umbrella vertically. Now this guy is keeping umbrella vertically. To keep himself dry. So you have to find out speed of the raindrops with respect to ground. Find out speed of raindrops with respect to ground. This you have to find out speed. So let's say initially speed of rain was V. So with respect to ground, initially when this man was at rest, so rain was not falling vertically, rain was falling by making some angle 30 degree with vertical. Okay, and let's say that speed is V. When this man starts running, okay, towards left with 10 kilometer per hour, he has to hold the umbrella vertically. Okay. See, now what is the use of relative motion here? Use of relative motion here in this situation. So velocity of rain with respect to ground, is simply this one and this one. If I have assumed this as V, then this would be V cos 30 degree and this would be V sine 30 degree. So it is simply minus V sine 30 degree I cap because it is in towards left and downward direction. So minus V cos 30 degree J cap. This is the velocity of rain with respect to ground. Okay. Now what is velocity? What is velocity of man with respect to ground in second situation? Velocity of man with respect to ground is 10 kilometer per hour towards left. So it is simply minus 10 I cap, velocity of man with respect to ground, correct? And at that time, velocity of rain with respect to man is nothing but velocity of rain with respect to ground minus velocity of man with respect to ground. So what is velocity of rain with respect to ground? It is this one first. And what is velocity of man with respect to ground? This one is second. So velocity of rain with respect to ground is minus v sine theta, v sine 30 degree I cap minus v cos 30 degree j cap. So this one is the velocity of rain with respect to ground minus velocity of man with respect to ground. It is given as minus 10 I cap. Okay. And it is clearly given in the question that this man has to hold the umbrella vertically. It means velocity of rain as seen by man when he starts walking is simply along, it is simply along minus j cap. There is no horizontal component, and that is the reason he is holding the umbrella vertically. When this man starts walking, towards left by 10 kilometer per hour, he has to hold the umbrella vertically. It means motion of rain as seen by man is only along vertical direction. There is no horizontal component. That is the reason he has to hold the umbrella vertically. So what you have to do, this velocity of rain with respect to man should have only vertical component. It means its horizontal component should be zero. So first of all, club them I cap. So minus v sine 30 degree I cap and minus plus 10. This total is I cap and minus v cos 30 degree j cap. So this velocity of rain with respect to man should have only vertical component. It means this horizontal component should be equal to 0. This horizontal component should be equal to 0 because motion of rain as seen by man when he starts walking towards left is only vertical. So there is only j cap component, I cap component should be 0, equated to 0. So minus v sine 30 plus 10 is equal to 0. This implies v sine 30 is equal to what? 10. It means v is equal to how much? 20 kilometer per hour. This is the v which we have to find out. This v is nothing but velocity of rain. This v is nothing but velocity of rain with respect to ground. Is it clear? Okay. So in situation one, man was at rest and he had to hold the umbrella at an angle 30 degree with vertical. I'm explaining it again. Initially, this man was at rest in situation one and it was raining. With respect to ground, rain was falling at an angle 30 degree with vertical. So I found out horizontal and vertical component of rain. So in vector form, what is the velocity of rain with respect to ground? It is minus v sine 30 I cap towards left and minus v cos 30 j cap in downward direction. Okay. Now, when this man starts walking with 10 kilometer per hour, so this is what is the velocity of man with respect to ground in situation 2? It is minus 10 I cap. So at that time, motion of rain as seen by man has got only vertical component. Why? Because it is given in the problem when this man starts walking towards left, he has to hold the umbrella vertically. So rain is falling vertically. Rain is having only j cap component. There is no I cap component. So I will use this thing. Well, I will find out velocity of rain with respect to man, which would be velocity of rain with respect to ground minus velocity of man with respect to ground. By using above two equations, I will solve this thing and I will club I cap terms and J cap terms. So this would be the I cap terms, coefficient of I cap. This would be the coefficient of J cap. This whole equation should have only J cap term. There should not be any I cap term. So I equated this minus V sine 30 plus tan equal to 0. From here, you will get the value of V as 20. What was V? We assumed V as velocity of rain with respect to ground originally, because rain will not change. If you are altering the motion of man, rain will remain same. The velocity and direction of rain will not change. But with respect to some observer, the direction and velocity of rain will change because it is the relative term. But originally, with respect to a person standing on the ground who is at rest, the rain will have the same direction and same velocity throughout. But if you change the frame of reference with respect to A, B, C, D, things will change. Okay. I will share these kind of problems with you in assignment. Now let's start Newton's law of motion. We are done with this 2D motion, two-dimensional motion, projectile motion, relative motion, rain man problem. Okay, this lift, elevator, and man problem. I will share such kind of more problems with you on in assignment. Let's start with laws of motion, Newton's laws of motion. I will share all these notes. Don't worry, just after the lecture, I will share the entire PDF. Okay. Laws of motion. Yes, I will send some. Don't worry. By tomorrow evening, I will share problems based on projectile, relative motion, rain man problem. I will definitely share. Don't worry. So now we are starting a new chapter, Newton's laws of motion. See, so in the previous chapter, kinematics, or you can say motion in 1D and 2D, we were discussing about the motion of a particle. We were studying the motion of a particle. If we throw a ball in vertically upward direction, so first it will go up. Due to acceleration, due to gravity, its velocity will keep on decreasing. At some moment, it becomes zero, and again it starts falling down. Correct. So we were studying the motion. Now in this chapter, Newton's laws of motion, we will actually study the cause of that motion, why that motion was taking place, why it was happening that it is going up and then coming down. Why? What is the reason behind it? So we will study about forces. If we apply certain force on a body, that body will move. Correct. So we will start like learning about Newton's first law, second law, third law. Okay, and then this linear momentum, and then jerk. What is inertia? All these things we will study. We will do questions based on first, second, third law. All that we will do. So Newton's laws of motion, basically study of cause behind the motion of a of an object. In this thing, we will study of cause behind the motion of an object that we are going to study. So first law, Newton's first law. I'm sure all of you must be knowing it. Newton's first law, it is nothing but if a particle is in motion, if a particle is in a state of rest or in state of motion, it will continue to be in a state of rest or motion until or unless some external force is applied. अगर कोई भी गाड़ी चल रही है तो वो चलती रहेगी and if that particle is at rest, it will remain at rest until or unless some external force is applied. It's very clear. Motion, a state of rest or motion will continue the state of rest or motion will continue until or unless some external force is applied. Okay. A state of rest or motion will continue until or unless some external force is applied. It is also known as this first law, also known as law of inertia. Law of inertia. So this inertia term. It's not blur, it's clear. It's clear. Wait. Now it's fine. Okay, let's continue. Okay. So in Newton's laws of motion, we will study the cause behind the motion of an object. First law states that state of rest for a particle, state of rest or state of motion will continue until unless some external force is applied. This law is also known as law of inertia. Now, what is inertia? We need to understand. Inertia, listen to me carefully. I am going to share these notes with you just after the lecture completes. So don't be like worried about these notes. You can note down, that's not an issue. If it's blur or anything for a while, that's not an issue. Listen to me carefully. First law, the state of rest or motion will continue until unless some external force is applied, also known as law of inertia. Now what is inertia? Inertia is basically for inertia is the inability of a body. Inertia is the inability of a body to change its state of rest or motion. Higher the value of inertia, higher would be the inability of that body to change its state of rest or motion. If the particle is at rest and its inertia is higher, it will continue to remain in a state of rest or in a state of motion. Inertia is basically inability of a body to change its state of rest or motion. Inertia, it is the inability of a body to change its state of rest or motion. What is the measure of inertia? How do we measure inertia? Measure of inertia is mass. Okay, how do we measure inertia? If mass of a body is more, its inability to change its state of rest or motion would be more. The heavier body will try to remain in a state of rest or motion unless or until some external force is applied. Its resistivity would be more. It would be more resistant to change the state of rest or motion. Measure of inertia is mass, and inertia is the inability of a body to change its state of rest or motion. Now, inertia, there are three types of inertia. There are three types of inertia. Inertia of rest. The next one is inertia of motion. The third one is inertia of direction. Inertia of direction. Inertia of rest, inertia of motion, inertia of direction. This one is same. If a body is in a state of rest, it will continue to be in a state of rest until unless some external force is applied. Now, what is inertia of motion? If a body is in a state of motion, it will continue to be in a state of motion until or unless some external force is applied. Now, what is inertia of direction? Understand this. Most of you must be knowing it. Inertia of direction is if a particle is moving in a particular direction, then it will continue to move in that direction until or unless some external force is applied to change its direction. For example, let's say there is one string. There is one string. There is one string. This end of the string is fixed, and at this end there is one stone tied up, and we are rotating. We are rotating with respect to this fixed point, like this. So this would be the path followed by the circular. This dotted line. This would be the path followed by the stone. Correct. So at this moment, direction of motion of this stone is this. Let's say here. After some time, direction would be in this direction. After some time, direction would be in this direction. So the direction of this particle having certain mass keeps on changing. Why? What is the reason behind it? Who is responsible to keep on changing the direction of the stone? Tension force. Tension force provided by this string. There is some external force. Tension force. We will study about this tension force in detail. We will do numericals based on this force. So this one is known as tension force. This tension force is responsible for changing the direction of this stone. If I cut this string at this moment, this stone will fly off tangentially in this direction. It will not change its direction, and that is because of its inertia. Particle will continue to move in its original direction if there is no force, no external force is applied. The particle will continue to move. Okay. If I cut this string, this particle will go tangentially. Why is it changing its direction? Because of the tension force applied by this string. This is known as inertia of direction. So this one is the first law of Newton. Okay. Second law. Newton's second law. Yes. I told you, like those of you who are telling me that if a particle is moving with constant speed or let's say constant velocity, then it will continue to move with constant speed velocity. Yes. If there is no force, there won't be any acceleration, and if there is no acceleration, particle will continue to move with the same speed or same velocity. Okay. So first law states, Newton's first law, particle will remain in a state of rest or motion until or unless some external force is applied. कोई चीज अगर चल रही है तो वो चलती रहेगी, रुकी है तो वो रुकी भी रहेगी, unless or until some force, some external force is applied. And as soon as we apply that force, then definitely motion will change. Particle's velocity will change. Particle will get some acceleration because force will come into picture, and that will bring acceleration. And because of acceleration, particle's velocity will change. And what is velocity? Velocity is the sum of, like, it consists both magnitude as well as direction. It may change particle's velocity. You can say magnitude of velocity or its direction. Okay. Inertia of rest, motion, and direction. Now, next one is Newton's second law. Newton's second law. So this second law is related to momentum. First, we need to understand this momentum. काफी लोगों को ये already पता होगा. Momentum. We symbol of momentum is P, and this momentum is a vector quantity, so we represent it like this: P vector. P vector. Okay. So what is momentum? Momentum is the product of mass of a particle and velocity of a particle, not the speed. Velocity. Why? Because this momentum is a vector quantity. Momentum is the product of mass of a particle, mass multiplied by velocity. For any object will give you momentum of that object.
mass multiplied by velocity. Velocity is a vector quantity, and that is why momentum is also a vector quantity. The direction of momentum, direction direction of momentum would be same as would be same as direction of velocity of the particle. Direction of momentum would be same as direction of velocity of a particle. Okay, so second law is all about change in momentum. Second law is all about how to identify force. Like if we apply some force on a body, then which all physical quantities will get affected, and how do we find out change in those physical quantities, and by what rate those physical quantities are changing will define this second law. The second law is nothing but, let's say, pi. This is pi. What is pi? This is the initial linear momentum. We call it linear momentum. Let's say pi is the initial linear momentum, and after applying some force, and after applying some force on an object, momentum changes to momentum changes to pf, which is the final linear momentum. Understand this properly. What is pi? Pi was the initial linear momentum particle. There was some particle, that particle was moving with some velocity, let's say, and there was no force initially. So this was the product of mass, and it was the product of mass and initial velocity of that particle. Okay, now after applying certain force, after applying some force on an object, this momentum will definitely change. Why that momentum will change? Because after applying the force, particles mass will not change. Mass will remain constant, mass will remain fixed, but this velocity of the particle will change, either the magnitude or direction, or you can say both are changing, direction as well as magnitude. So if magnitude, direction, anything changes, then definitely particles final linear momentum will also change. So what would be the change? First of all, what would be the change in linear momentum? That is known as delta p. This delta p, we are going to find out this delta p. What is delta p? This symbol is known as delta. Delta p vector, it is nothing but change in linear momentum. Change in linear momentum. This is change in linear momentum, and this change in linear momentum is nothing but final linear momentum. This is nothing but final linear momentum minus initial linear momentum. This will give you change in linear momentum. And who is responsible for this change? The force applied. This force applied is responsible for change in linear momentum. So the second law, Newton stated by using the second law that net force, this net external force applied on an object is directly proportional to change in its linear momentum with respect to time delta t. जितना ज्यादा हम फोर्स लगाएंगे, उस पार्टिकल का लीनियर मोमेंटम उतना ही ज्यादा प्रोपोर्शनली चेंज होगा. That change would be directly proportional. If I apply the higher amount of force, then definitely this p final would be higher, and if this p final is higher, then this difference would also be higher. So basically Newton had given us this law that net external force acting on a body is directly proportional to change in momentum with respect to time delta p upon delta t. This is known as rate of change of, this one is known as rate of rate of change of rate of change of linear momentum. Rate of change of linear momentum. Okay. And this proportionality constant, this is a symbol of proportionality, and this proportion, after experimenting things in a lab, he found out that proportionality constant comes out to be 1. So the final equation given to us was F net, net force, force is a vector quantity, net external force acting on a body is equal to delta P upon delta T. And this can also be written as dP upon dt, the differential form. When the change is very small, when this delta value, when the change is small, it can be converted into dP upon dt differential form. So simply you have to remember that net external force, this is the second law equation. This is the second law equation of Newton's second law equation. Okay, net external force is equal to delta P upon delta P, delta P upon delta T. Clear? Now the derived equation, that equation which you use, F is equal to ma, is being derived from the same formula. This F external is this. So this F force acting is equal to what? Delta P. What is delta P? It is simply P final minus P initial is the delta P on time delta T. If we are starting from P equal to 0 till some time T, so delta T would be T minus 0. So what is P final? P final is mass multiplied by velocity final minus mass multiplied by velocity initial upon delta T. What is delta T final? T minus 0. So M common, this would be V final vector minus V initial vector upon time T minus 0 would be T. What is this thing? In time T, velocity changes from V final to V initial. So change in velocity on time is known as what? Acceleration. It is known as acceleration. So this can be written as mass multiplied by acceleration. So this one is the derived form of Newton's second law. F is equal to ma. You have to remember this equation. You already know this equation. F is equal to ma. Okay. Wait. So this one is the second law related to change in momentum. If there is some external force applied, then definitely there would be some change in velocity, and if velocity changes, it will change the linear momentum. The rate of linear momentum, delta P upon delta T, is equal to net external force acting on a body. Correct? This is the Newton's second law. Third law, Newton's third law. We will solve questions based on this F is equal to delta P upon delta T or F is equal to ma later. Okay. Next, Newton's third law. Newton's third law is simply action reaction. It is action reaction. Action reaction law. This third law is action reaction law. You all must have heard this. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So if I ask you, let's take an example. I'm taking one example. See, understand this concept properly. Most of you must be feeling, okay, we already know these three laws, first, second, third. These are very basics. Now we are starting from this, after this point, third law. So you have to answer me. So on ground, a block is placed. There is one block of mass M, capital M. Block is placed. Okay. And this ground is perfectly smooth. There is no frictional force available. This is a smooth surface. Smooth surface. Okay, wait. Krish Kala. Yeah, Krish, tell me what's your doubt.
Sir, that F is equals to ma will only work when mass is constant, na?
Yeah, exactly. When mass is constant. See,
Sir, but
like when you will come in high standards, when you will come in 11th, you will see when mass changes, when we solve questions based on variable mass, okay, then how to do such problems. So this one at your level, you just have to like remember when mass is constant, only the acceleration will change. Sorry, only the velocity will change, and that change in velocity is nothing but acceleration. Okay.
okay, sir.
Huh. So there is a block of mass m placed on smooth surface, perfectly smooth surface. There is no frictional force, and this block m is at rest. Block is at rest. Block is at rest. Okay. I'm drawing the same here. There is one block of mass m, smooth surface. Hmm. So block of mass m placed on a smooth surface, and this block is at rest. See, learn this term FBD first of all. What is FBD? The full form of FBD is free body diagram. Free body diagram. Okay. What is free body diagram? In free body diagram of any object, FBD of any object would be a diagram showing all the forces, showing all the forces acting on that object from surrounding. Okay, so you can draw FBD of any object. What is FBD? Free body diagram. So FBD of any object is nothing but a diagram showing all the forces acting on that object from surrounding. So let's say if that object is surrounded by 2, 3, 4, 5 another objects. So whatever force those another objects are applying on that object will give you the free body diagram. So here how many objects are there? Here I can see there is one ground, another mass, a block of mass m. So this block of mass m is placed over the smooth surface of ground. So basically there is some physical contact between these two surfaces. So definitely they will have certain force acting on each other. So first of all, we need to learn how to draw FBD, and then I will discuss about Newton's third law, that action reaction law. Okay, so I'm drawing free body diagram. I'm drawing free body diagram of mass m. FBD of block m. So this one is the block mass m. We all know that there is one force, gravitational force, always acting in downward direction. Okay, on an object, and that would be nothing but mass multiplied by acceleration due to gravity g. So there would be one force acting on this block due to gravity in downward direction, and that is nothing but mass multiplied by g. So this one is force due to Earth's force due to Earth's gravitational attraction. Okay, mg is the force due to Earth's gravitational attraction. Now, as you can see, two surfaces are in contact. The lower surface of block M and ground surface of Earth, they both are in contact, and whenever two surfaces are in contact, there would be some normal contact force. So ground would be applying certain normal force on the block in upward direction like this. Arrow will show you, this arrow will give you the direction of force applied. So let's say capital N. What is N? N is the normal contact force. Normal contact force between block and Earth. This N is the normal contact force between block and Earth. So right now for this example, I can see only two forces acting on this block of mass M. One is acting in downward direction, and that is due to Earth's gravitational force of attraction mg. Another one is due to the contact, which is known as normal contact force. That contact is between Earth and mass m. Okay, so these are the two forces acting. This is the FBD of block M. Now my question to you all is, how many action reaction pairs are there? Are normal and mg, they both are forming action reaction pair. So most of the students are replying with one. There is one action reaction pair, and obviously that action reaction pair, as per most of the students, would be normal and mg. Normal and mg, they are forming action reaction pair. Is it true? How many of you think that normal force applied by Earth on the block and this gravitational pull applied by Earth on the block, they both are forming action reaction pair? And if block is at rest, this implies forces are balanced. This implies that normal force would be equal to mg. This implies net downward force should be equal to net upward force. I absolutely agree with this statement. When a block is at rest, when any object is at rest, net force acting on that force should be zero. Forces must be balanced. And here, when I draw FBD of block M, there are only two forces acting on this block. mg downwards and normal force upwards, and they both are balancing out each other. But I want to clear out one thing to all of you, that normal and mg, they both are not forming action reaction pair. They both are not forming action reaction pair. Normal and mg, they both are not forming action reaction pair. Reason, I have got one statement for all of you. Listen to me carefully. Statement is action reaction pair, action reaction forces always act on two different bodies. Is it true or not? Action reaction pair, action reaction forces always act on two different bodies. It's true that action reaction forces will always act on two different bodies, but here I have drawn FBD of a single body, and both the forces are acting on a single body. This normal as well as mg, the both are acting on a single body. That's why they cannot form action reaction pair, whereas normal and mg are balancing forces. Whereas normal and mg are balancing forces. So here I can write down that normal and mg are balancing forces. Normal and mg are balancing forces. They are not making action reaction pair. They are not making. Now then which all forces are forming action reaction pair, that we need to understand Newton's third law. There is no friction. Those who are talking about Krishgala, you are talking about friction. There is no friction. I have already mentioned, I have already cleared that the surface is perfectly smooth. The surface is perfectly smooth. No, zero pairs, not the correct answer. There is action reaction pair present. Now I will show you which two forces are making that action reaction pair. Okay. Okay, so these two are balancing forces. Why they are balancing forces? I had drawn FBD of block M, mg acting in downward direction. What is mg? It is the force due to Earth's gravitational attraction. Normal force acting in upward direction. Why this normal force is there? Because whenever surfaces are in contact, there would be certain normal force. Okay, and normal force would be acting on both the surfaces in opposite directions, equal in magnitude but opposite in direction. Now, normal and mg are balancing forces, but normal and mg are not forming action reaction pair, are not forming action reaction pair. See, these are the basics. If you can understand these basics, then it would become very easy for all of you to solve numericals based on Newton's laws of motion, which you will realize later when we will solve numericals. So focus on this thing. But these normal and mg both are forming balancing forces. They both are balancing forces, but normal and mg acting on this block M are not forming action reaction pair because action reaction forces always act on two different bodies. Remember this thing always. It's very important. Action reaction forces always act on two different bodies. Okay, but this normal and mg, they both are acting on the same body. Then which all forces are forming action reaction pair? So for that we need to draw FBD of all the bodies which are involved in action reaction pair. Because if there are two different bodies, then first body is this block of mass M. Which one is the second body? Second body is Earth. Here in this example, a block of mass M is placed on the surface of Earth, smooth surface of Earth. So first body is block of mass M. and the second body is Earth. So now I will draw free body diagram of Earth. Now we will discuss about Earth. FBD. So FBD of Earth. So let's say this is Earth, surface, center of Earth. Okay, and this surface is perfectly smooth. So let me tell you one thing, that anything which is placed on the surface of Earth, the Earth will attract that body towards its center with force mg. And can I say the same amount of force will be applied by that body on the Earth? So can I say the mg, same amount of force? Okay, block was placed over here, so this Earth is attracting this block towards the center here. So the same amount of force will be applied by, basically there are two bodies, m1 and m2. Understand this law, gravitational law of attraction. There are two bodies, m1 and m2, separated by some distance d. So they both will attract each other. So this m2 will attract m1 in this direction, and this m1 will attract m2 in this direction. Can I say the direction would be different? The direction would be opposite, but the amount of force would be same. This is known as gravitational law, Newton's gravitational law. Correct? So similarly, if this block is placed on the surface of Earth, the Earth will pull this block in downward direction, and that I have already shown by drawing the FBD of block M. Now I will draw FBD of Earth. So the Earth will also experience the same amount of force acting on the center of the Earth, but in opposite direction. So this mg, what is m? M is the mass of block and g is the acceleration due to gravity. This mg will act on Earth, but in opposite direction at the center. But the magnitude of this mg is so small that Earth will not move because of this infinitesimal force. Correct? On the surface of Earth, there are many objects, but mass of Earth is much greater than as compared to the mass of other objects lying on the surface of Earth, and that is the reason Earth will not move, because of the forces applied by those objects. So I'm just drawing this FBD to make it clear to all of you that how action reaction pairs form. Okay, so FBD of Earth, first force acting on the Earth is mg in this direction. Now can I say the force, the normal contact force applied, this is the normal contact force between these two surfaces. So this N would be applied by Earth's surface on block M in upward direction. Can I say the same amount of force? Would be applied by block on the Earth's surface in opposite direction, basically in downward direction. And if Earth's surface is applying force capital N, normal contact force, on block in upward direction, then same amount of force would be applied by block on Earth in downward direction, and as shown in the figure. Is it clear? So basically these are action reaction pairs. Okay, I'm naming this normal as 1 and this normal as 2. I'm naming this mg as 1, which is acting on the block, and I'm naming this mg as 2, which is acting at the center of the Earth. Okay, so now action reaction pair does exist in this problem, in this example. Which all forces are making action reaction pair? Basically mg1 and mg2. This is one pair, this is first pair. Okay, and this normal 1 and normal 2, this one is another pair, second pair. These are action reaction pairs. These are action reaction pairs for this particular example. Understand this properly. This concept will help you in solving numericals, really tough numericals. If you have this basic understanding, then you would be able to solve all those difficult numericals. What? First, I drawn this FBD of capital M mass block, mg downwards, normal upwards, and then I had to draw the FBD of Earth. So the earth will experience certain amount of force mg at the center in opposite direction, and normal force will also be opposite to the applied force. So basically this normal 1 and normal 2, these are action reaction pairs. What is action reaction pair? When two bodies interact, and apply equal and opposite force on each other. When they apply equal amount of force but in opposite directions on each other, that those two forces will form one pair, and that pair is known as action reaction pair. So the students who were telling me that this normal and this mg, they are forming action reaction pair, it's absolutely wrong. They are not action reaction pair. These are balancing forces. Normal is equal to mg. You will just draw a free body diagram of an object, and if that object is at rest, then you will equate the net force acting in vertically upward direction to the net force acting in downward direction. So these kind of forces are known as balancing forces, whereas action reaction pairs are those forces which are equal in magnitude but opposite in direction and acting on two different bodies when two different bodies interact with each other. Is it clear to all of you? Okay, so action reaction pairs will always act on two different bodies. Remember this thing. Action reaction forces always act on two different bodies. So I had taken a very simple example that on a smooth surface a block is placed. In the next class, I will take another example where 2, 3, 4 bodies would be involved, and we will do the same thing for those 4 bodies, and we'll continue this lecture. Okay, so you can just revise all your notes before you come for the next lecture. So someone is asking me, how can this mg act in upward direction? It is not upward direction. Let me explain it to you. Let's say this is earth. Okay, ideally we assume that this earth is of spherical shape. Let's say block is present here, m mass. Okay, and this one is a sphere, earth center. So earth is applying some attractive force in this direction. Same amount of attractive force would be applied by the block on the earth. So if this one is mg, this one would also be mg. This is not the upward direction. Let's say if block is placed somewhere here, m mass, so it would act towards the center basically, mg. So this would act in this direction, mg. If block is placed somewhere here, so it would act in this direction, mg and mg. It is not upward and downward. Understand this. Clear? So we will meet in the next class. We'll share assignment involving questions based on radiative motion, projectile, and wind, this Rain Man problem with you by tomorrow evening. Okay.